Welcome everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make the windows for my hotel. It's the same way that I made them for the general store. I'm going to show you two ways to make them. The first way is by hand, cutting it by hand with no measurements. And the second way, I'll show you how I cut it with my Cameo silhouette. I'm also going to show you how I set it up in the studio. But you'll have to bear with me because that part of the video may be a little bit grainy because I don't know how to record my screen. So I just put my tripod facing my screen and recorded it that way. There will be timestamps in the description in case you want to pass by one or the other of those ways to make the window, but I just wanted to put it out there how you could make it either of those two ways. I'm going to show you how I set up my window in my Silhouette studio. And yes, I know this is a weird way to record my screen, but I'm not tech savvy enough to know how to record my screen any other way than to just put my camera on a tripod and face it towards the screen. It's over here, it's a shape tool, it looks like a square, and I'm going to do the rectangle, and I'm just putting a rectangle out. It's not the measurement that I need, I just put out a rectangle. The rectangle is just an outline, but I want this to be solid, so I come up here to this color area, but if I click on the block, it brings up some colors, and it doesn't matter, just pick one that you like. I guess I'll pick purple. I click on the outline block, which is right next to it, and I click on the purple. So now I have a solid purple rectangle. And now I need to resize this, and I want this to be the size of my window. So I come up here to the Panels tab, and I click on Transform, and then it brings up this window if it wasn't up already. And I click on the Scale tab in that window. And my window measurement is 2.5 by 4 and a quarter. So I need to turn it into decimal. So my window width is 2.5, so I need to make it be 2.5. And the window height is 4 and a quarter, so I'm going to put 4.25. And you can hit apply or you can hit enter. And now it's resized this rectangle that I made. And this is the size of my window opening. So now I'm going to place it right down here. It kind of wants to snap right to the center. The center of this rectangle wants to go right to the center of my grid. And so I need to duplicate this piece. And I'm also going to duplicate an extra one, but I'm going to set it over here to the side. So this one here, I'm going to recolor it too. I'm just picking a random color. So it's this brown. I need to resize this so that I can create the borders of my window. I need to take 3/4 off of the width and 3/4 off of the height. And so that comes out to the width now will be 1.75, and then the height will be 3.5. So my brown square now, I'm going to center it. And so you can see now I have my 3/8 inch border. But I need to cut this out and select both pieces together. Then you go up to the Object tab, and then you hit Modify. You go down here to Subtract. And it took out that center part. So now I have the beginnings of my window. I could have it go above or below that line, but I think I want to come up just a little bit. I don't want this pane to look exactly centered. I want it to look like, I don't know, something like this. I'm just going to eyeball it. And now I'm going to take this and center it. So this is how I want my window panes to look. Again, I have my selection tool, selected all of those pieces, and I'm going to go up here to this button that's called Weld. I hit it and it turns it all into the same color, and that means it's all one piece now. And I'm going to create another tab because there's the first piece of my window. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it over here to put what I'm making onto a different mat. This is actually what the cutting mat looks like. If I forgot to explain that part. So I'm going to set it onto my cutting mat for two reasons. One, so I can cut it, and then also usually I'll stack all my pieces and then I can save it. So next time, if I want to make the same size of window, all I have to do is I don't have to design it again. I just bring it into this program and I can cut it. That is my pattern piece, and I want to check it in a minute with this next piece. And I'm going to duplicate window size. I'm going to bring it over here, and we're going to do this again, except this time I don't want the borders to be 3/8. I want them to be 1/4, and I don't need these panes. So I'm going to duplicate this one again. I'm going to make it be a different color just so I can see that, you know, what I'm doing. And I'll just go ahead and place that right over there right now. We want it to be 2 inches because we're taking off 1/2 inch so that we can have a 1/4 inch border on each side. The height will be 3 3/4 inch. And here you can see that that's why I do this with the centering. It helps me visually see, yes, I did the math correctly. And I select everything so it's highlighted. And then I come up here to Object and I go to Modify and I say Subtract. And now we have this cutout. And I'm going to change the color for sure on this one. I guess I'll do kind of like a blue. And the outline in the blue. And now to check it, if I did it correctly, I'm going to bring my window over, and it's going to go underneath because I created it first. And you can see here now that where you see the purple is what will show from the first layer when we glue it together, and this blue is the second layer, and we need to create one more layer, or you could stop here, it's your preference. But I want to have one more layer, so I'm going to scoot these two out of the way, and I'm going to duplicate, and then this piece I will change the color. I'm going to make it a pink. I need to take off 1/4 inch off of each one of my measurements, so this 2.5 will be 2 1/4, and then my 4 1/4 will be 4. And you can see this shows me that yes, that has my 1/8 inch border that I wanted all the way around. I go up here to my selection tool and I select everything. I hit Modify and Subtract, and it's taken out the center. And I'm going to change this purple so that we can see if it's correct. I think I'll go with something that'll show up, maybe an orange, yellowy orange. And now I'm going to bring these two back over. And now you can see what will be showing of each one. So there's a little bit of the purple, and it leaves 1/8 inch. Then I have a little bit of this blue showing, which is 1/8 inch all the way around, and then the yellow. And so here's all your pieces. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy them all and take them over onto to this page that's going to be for me to cut out. I'll delete this one because we don't need 2 of them. Well, actually we do. So here's all the pieces to make my window. So I'm going to make 3 layers of this piece. Maybe I should go for This is where you have to lay them all out on your cutting mat. And the cutting mat is 12 by 12, but my paper is not 12 by 12. My cardstock isn't. So I need to make sure that I don't go past this 8.5, because my paper is 8.5 by 11. And if it's helpful to you, you can always put your guides out. I put a guide on the 8.5, and I'm going to put a guide down here on the 11. And that is so that I know not to cross over that blue line. I don't know if you can see that blue line, but it tells me don't go over that blue line. And I'm pretty sure, I can tell already by looking, if I'm going to do 4 layers of these windows, that it's going to take more than 2 sheets of cardstock. And then I'll cut this one. And I'm going to duplicate it because I want 4 copies of it. And this piece, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so I can try to, nope, see? So I'm going to have some extra here. So these 2 pieces, and these 2 pieces will get cut on the next run. Okay, now I have my silhouette hooked up to my laptop, and I'm going to hit send, and that way it will send all of this information to the silhouette. The 2 pieces that I don't want to cut are off my cutting mat over here, so it will not try to cut them. It will only try to cut what is on this mat. And then I go over here. I already have the blade and everything set, and I know what size I'm going to use. I'll show you the blade really quick. This is the blade. You can turn these, and I have noticed that with my cardstock, my heavy cardstock, I like to go at 8. I could probably go a little bit less, but I usually do 2 cuts, and I want to make sure that it's going to cut all the way through and not leave some places uncut. So this works for me. I'm going to put this in. That 8 is the blade depth, and then I will go over here to the numbers, and I'm going to hit the arrow until I come to 8, because that's what my blade is set at. I'm going to leave the force and the speed alone, but I'm going to come over here to where it says passes, and I'm going to go up 1 and make it be 2. I'm really bad. I don't ever do the test, so because I feel like it just slows me down. And then I just go ahead and hit send. Now I have my mat already in. It's already loaded into my machine and ready to go. So I will hit send, and then it will start cutting. And I have masking tape on the edges of on the corners of my cardstock, and that's just because I'm frugal and I don't want to be constantly buying a new mat every time that I turn around. So once it's lost its super stickiness, I mean, it's still kind of holding it in place, but I just put the tape there to steady it and keep it from shifting while it's cutting. Here are all of my pieces that have been cut. I used 2.5 sheets of the cardstock, and there were a lot of pieces that came out of like the center big pieces that can go in my scrap box and get used for something else. First, I get out the material that I'm going to make the glass. I'll lay all of my cut pieces on there, and then I'm going to take my wall, one of my walls, and I'm checking to see if the height is the same height. The thickness of this with the glass, the fake glass, is the thickness of my wall. And so here is the order that it's going to go in. So here are all of my pieces, And the way I'm going to separate them up is the one here that has the, is this a sash? I think this is the sash. Anyway, it's the piece that has the division of the panes. I'm going to do three layers on each side of the window. So this will be facing the inside and this will be facing the outside. And then the next size, I'm going to do 4. I really could have done 3, but I needed to squeeze in 2 more layers somewhere. So what I did was I just added 1 of these to each one of my other pieces to kind of evenly distribute it. So I'm going to do 4 layers of that. Put that with the inside or outside, I don't know which one it is. And then there's 4 layers on this one as well. And this piece, I have 4 layers. So your window ends up looking like this. When it's all glued together and painted, I will put this piece of glass, fake glass, in between. And then this would go on the other side, so the glass will be running down the center. Then it will be something like this. And I don't know if you can see so the glass is running down the center of it. Once they're all glued together, they fit into the window opening just like this. I cut this one on the Cameo 4, but this one here was not cut on the cutting machine, all cut by hand and no measuring. So I'll show, right now I'm going to show you how I made this one without any measuring. Oh, and this one, I use food packaging. So let me show you how I did this one. Okay, for this one I'm taking a piece of the heavy cardstock to show you, but I wanted to come up with an alternative way in case you don't have a Cameo and you don't want to measure. So what I do is I take the opening of my window and I trace it out onto my cardstock. Make a good dark line. And I trace that out several times. I can't remember how many that I traced, but it's always good to trace the opening rather than cut this out and trace this, because it always gets a little bit bigger if you do it that way. So if you just trace the original opening, then it will stay pretty close in size. So I'm going to trace this one just to get us started. So what I did that came really close to that width that I did on the one that I cut on the Cameo, what I did, I wanted to find something that was common that everybody had, that was very close to the measurement that I did in the Cameo, because this was cut on the cutting machine. So a popsicle stick is exactly that measurement, which is 3/8. But we're not going to talk measurements. So what I do, and try to find your straightest one. This one here was a little jagged over here, but if you're okay with that, it doesn't matter if it comes out perfectly. And so lay the edge of your popsicle stick on the edge of your window outline. And then just trace it. And do that all the way around. Okay, and here is how that looks once you've traced out the popsicle stick all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and cut this away from here. And I'm trying to cut on the pencil line since I did trace the outline of the window opening off of the wall. So however you cut each one out, try to always cut it that way each time so that the windows will be more uniform. And we need to make our little crossbars, the window crossbar. So I'm going to take the straightest edge of my popsicle, and I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to eyeball it and put it in the center. And then I'm going to trace it onto each side of the edge of that popsicle stick. And that comes out pretty close to the width. It's just a little bit smaller, but not much. Decide if you want your crossbar up higher or do you want it centered, just wherever you want to put it. I kind of use the lines on my cutting mat too to help keep me straight. So I think I'll follow, let's see, I think I'll follow this line and line my popsicle stick on there, and then trace on each side of the edge of the popsicle stick. Now you have your window with your crossbar. So now you need to cut out your window, and what I'm going to do, I have my little steel ruler. I'm not going to measure anything. I'm just setting it on my line, and I'm going to cut. That keeps me from cutting in somewhere. If you're really steady with your hand, then you can just do it without the ruler. And I'm just going to cut out the inside, these inside panes. Just going to go on all of the lines, and again try to remember, are you cutting right on the pencil line or are you cutting after it? That way you'll try to cut them all the same way. And I'm being sure not to cut over that crossbar, because that would cut it off. And you can always make the windows the same way and not have that crossbar. If you don't want it, just omit that part. And here is the window cut out. Now, I don't know how thick your wall is, or what you're cutting, what your food packaging or your cardstock, how thick it is, so I can't tell you how many layers to cut. But like I showed you with the other one, you will just lay it down and you will cut as many as you need to get to that thickness of your wall. Since we don't know how many layers you need, that's why I traced the extra one, although I'm not going to do it, because match it within your your pencil lines, and once you have it, then trace that out, and that will be your next layer, and then so on, however many layers it takes you. But I am going to trace part of this one, because this is how you will create the next layer of your window. I'm not going to trace any of this inside lines, but I am going to trace the outside lines. I'm trying to line up that straight edge of my popsicle on the end, and I'm laying this right across my pencil line, matching up my pencil line, no measuring, and I'm just tracing that, and that gives you that width of this, which is about how much you need to take off. And I did not cut or draw out the panes. It's exactly like this layer that I cut out on the Cameo. So that you don't get mixed up, if you have to erase this outer line, you should do it so that you don't cut the wrong one, because I have done that before. Cutting from that pencil, the top pencil line, to the bottom one, just this inside part, so that we can leave that frame. Okay, and I'm going to save this piece in my scrap box. And then here we have the next frame size of the window. And just like this one, I don't know how many layers you need. so I'm not really cutting them all the layers out. Don't come over here and just trace this one, because if you do that and you cut it out, the width and the height are going to come out a little bit larger than this one. So I always use the actual window cutout. So I always trace the opening. I don't trace around the window. And with this one, you're going to need to make more. So you would trace out however many more you needed, and you would use this one as a guide to draw your lines. And if you use the same one each time, hopefully that way the size wouldn't change on you. Okay, so now since I had this trace, we're going to use this one to make the top layer. So again, I'm going to lay the popsicle stick on edge, flush with that pencil line, and trace it. And I'm going to go all the way around again. Okay, and I'm going to erase this inside line just so that you can see it better. I'm erasing not this line, but the one that's closest to the inside. And just cut it on the line, or however you cut your first one, so they stay very similar in size. We have all three of our pieces, and again, if you need 4 or 5 layers of this, you will trace out your window 4 or 5 times on your cardstock, and then you will take your piece, match it up the best that you can with your pencil line, and then trace in there. Here is how it looks. It's very, very close to the one that's cut on the cutting machine. And that's how you can cut the windows without measuring. I hope that wasn't too silly. I hope that could help you. Okay, now I'm ready to assemble these windows. I've already glued all of the layers together for each one. So this is the one that I cut out by hand using that I'm going to call the popsicle method, and this is the one that I cut out on the Cameo. And so all of the layers are glued together. I believe there was 3 or 4. I can't remember for sure. So before I glue them together, I'm not going to sand the outer edge, but I am going to soften the edges a little bit to take that rough edge off. I'm not sanding it a lot, but you know me, I love sanding, so I'm gonna sand. I think I'm gonna try something different with these windows that I didn't do with the general store. I'm going to try to scratch some of the wood up. So I'm not going to do the whole thing because most of that's going to be glued by the next layer, but I'm just going to put just a little bit in, and I might even go a little bit heavier with it to really make it noticeable. I'm not going to cut through, but I'm just really scraping it up, but not where I damage the edge any. Okay, let me check that now. Oh, I really like that. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I really like that. So I'm going to continue to do that on all of the other pieces. And here's how my 2 windows look. The rough side looks. I am very happy with this. I hope the camera's getting it. It looks so cool. And while I was scratching these up, I thought to myself, don't do both sides. So this is the side that will be facing the outside, the roughed up ones. These 2 I just left smooth because they're going to be on the inside. And now I'm going to glue all of my layers together. And that piece is glued together. And I'm going to go ahead and finish gluing these, and I'll be right back. Now I'm going to give each one of these a coat of Mod Podge. And I'm not painting the sides, I'm just painting the front and a little bit of maybe the inside of the window. I'm trying to fake it to look like I had mitered my pieces, so I'm just going over it, you know, making a little line right here on a diagonal in the corner of each one of these. I'm just pressing and kind of giving it that look. I'm giving it that look as if it's mitered. Just be sure on the thinner pieces towards the bottom that you're not going too hard, because you might actually go through. I don't know how much this will really show up. I feel like it did pretty good on the inside of my windows of the general store, but it might not on this one, because I think this one I'm going to put a little bit more paint, and it's darker paint. But we'll see. It's worth a try. And then also I think it would make sense to do it right on these crossbars, the top of them. So I'm gonna pretend this piece is all one piece, so I just did it at the top and bottom, and then right here with these little ones, I'm gonna make it look like they were just added in from a separate piece of wood. Just be careful that you don't cut all the way through. And this is one of my favorite things to do, is to mix raw umber and black together. I can't say it's equal parts. I want to say I put just a little bit more raw umber, but it's just a feeling I get. I think today I actually mixed it half and half, and I wish I would have put a little bit more of the raw umber. And I'm just going to scrub it on. Yeah, I can tell I put too much black today, but it's okay because this is just a base coat. I'm getting the edge of the windows where the window panes would be, but I'm not doing this edge, the outer edge. It won't show at all. So I'm wanting the door and the windows to be kind of a reddish brown. So I took some of this burnt umber and flag red, and I've mixed it together. I did more of the red than I maybe did 75% of the red and 25% of the brown. I want to leave some of this brown, the base color, showing. And here's how that looks so far. Okay, I have the glass cut for both of my windows, and I'm going to be sandwiching it between the front and the back layer. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue just on the edge. And I've been thinking about using two-way stick tape sometime, because I don't like to get glue on my glass. It's not really glass, it's the plastic, but I don't like to get glue on it. So someday I'm going to try that. I'm going to use the two-way stick. I'm just putting it on the very edge so that when I press them together, it won't squeeze out through to the front. It won't push out through to the front. And just set it down and don't move it around a lot. And then I put some glue on the edge of this piece. And this one that I'm gluing together right now, it's the one that I did on my Cameo. You can weight it down with something heavy while the glue dries. Okay, in this other piece, I'm going to put the glue on the edge again. This one's going to be a little bit different because this is the one that I cut without measurements. So when we put them together, we need to try to match up the crossbars. You could, I didn't do it, but you could always paint the back side of these too as well. So I'm going to put the glass on. Okay, so we need to match up the crossbars now. So I'm looking at them to match them up. I'm not paying attention to the edges of the window. I'm paying attention to these crossbars. And I can see right here, you can see a little bit of the one on the back, so I'm going to slide it slightly that way so you can't see the back side of it. When I did that, I went too far because I saw a little bit show over here. So you just have to kind of fiddle with it until you get it where you don't see the other side through the glass. So now I'm going to put something heavy on this and let these two dry. And this is something that I learned from Ara at Bentley House Minis. She makes these paper band-aids, and I'm going to put some glue here on the edge, and I'm going to put some paper over it. And that'll kind of seal this all together and definitely make sure that it's all glued and that it won't come apart. And on the one that, if you happen to hand cut yours, if you have a lot of jaggedness and you need to sand it a little bit, you can sand it before you do this part. I'm just going to try this out, see how it fits, and push the window in. And if it didn't push in and fit, you would want to take a nail file and file lightly on the inside of the window opening to make room for it. But don't take off too much. So what I did next, just like how I constructed the window, I made a frame. It covers where the wall and the window meet. This is how it's going to look. And I think I have mentioned before that my wall color. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.